In this video, I'm looking at the Thieaudio Legacy 4. This is a quad driver IEM. It's got one dynamic driver, one Knowles balanced armature driver, and a dual Belsing customized driver for a total of 4. A lot of hype around this at the moment. Let's see what it's all about. What's cracking audio fans? It's David here from Prime Audio Reviews. I just want to quickly show you what you get in the box because it's a pretty impressive little package. Starting off with the outer box, you get this nice frequency response graph, the specifications list, and inside, damn, you get this massive carrying case. It's a bit excessive. There's not really a need for it, but it's certainly nice. It is. It gave me a heck of a surprise when I saw it. But in here, you get your IEMs, which normally would be there. You get a selection of ear tips, silicone ear tips, on this thick fucking aluminium slab. It's pretty impressive. Over the top again, just like the case. And you also get this smaller carrying case, which is felt lined inside, and yeah, it's really a pretty nice bundle for the price you're paying. By the way, the price of the Thieaudio Legacy 4 is $195. So let's get into it. Here they are here, and as always, we're going to have a look at the shells. So let's move in a bit. They come with these beautiful hand-painted faceplates. If I understand correctly, every single one is hand-painted, which means every single one is also unique. They've got a 2-pin connector socket there, which is flush with the surface, a single vent on the top. You got your 2 tuning switches there, and a little 3-bore nozzle. And when it comes to the build, I am really impressed with these. The only thing that I don't like particularly is the short nozzle here, because some ear tips pop off fairly easily. The ones that come included in the box sit on there really well, but third-party ones with slightly wider cores may slip off fairly easily. But these are just absolutely beautiful, slightly transparent shells, so you can sort of see the drivers inside there, and overall they're really nice. Now in terms of comfort, these are really good as well. These are kind of having all day long type of comfort where there's no hot spots. They fit in your ears beautifully. The passive noise isolation is very good on them too, which might be a factor. Let's have a real quick look at this cable now, and this is a beautiful little cable. 4-core braided 4N OCC cable with aluminium plug, MMC connector, 2-pin connectors, and a little wire split there. It does have a chin slider. It is a nice, lightweight, supple and soft cable, and it's just, yeah, beautiful, very nice. Okay, so moving on to the sound now, and the overall presentation of the Legacy 4 is a fairly linear, sort of neutral bright presentation with a fairly strong emphasis on the upper mid-range and lower treble. Detail is good, clarity is very good throughout, and you're looking for a very detailed listen. These will fit the bill just perfectly, but let's break it down now, starting with the bass. And the bass on these is really fantastic. It's got a new polycarbonate 8mm dynamic driver. It's a definite improvement over their previous Legacy models. It's faster. It's almost like a balanced armature bass. It's that fast. The attack and the decay speeds on this are very fast. And yeah, it's kind of similar to a balanced armature bass, but of course, because it's a dynamic driver, it does move air and has that extra authority that BA drivers just don't have. The quantity of the bass is fairly reserved, but the Legacy 4, they can bring the bass, they can sort of bring a bit of a party to your ears when required by the recording. The sub bass extension is fairly good. It's got a nice kind of light rumble, but on some songs that they can really punch out. But overall, the control of the bass is excellent. There's no bleed into the mid-range or anything like that. It's very well controlled, and overall, it's just a very good quality bass. Okay, so moving on to the mid-range now, and this is where things get interesting. The mids are mostly neutral with just a little touch of warmth being provided by the bass, but the note weight is fairly lean in the mid-range, and the density is kind of a little bit on the light side. They don't have much density, they don't have much body to the notes. And for that reason, the Legacy 4, for that reason and other reasons, the treble, which we'll get to, the Legacy 4 here has some of the best mid-range resolution you'll find at this price point. Instrument separation is fantastic, and the level of detail is also very good. In particular, the resolution is just fantastic on these, and you will hear things that you don't hear with other similarly priced IEMs in terms of little details and sort of nuances and things like that. Vocals are very articulate, very clear, and you will hear every little breath and nuance in vocals. So if you are into that kind of thing, this will definitely suit your preference. But like I say, they are a little on the thin side, and that is mainly due to the upper mid-range presence, sort of peaks around the 3 kilohertz mark, which can be a little bit fatiguing. Vocals might seem a little bit shouty at times. The vocals aren't that forward and up front. Like I mentioned, the density is a little bit on the thin side, and female vocals might come across sometimes as a little bit too vibrant, a little bit sharp. And speaking of sharp, let's move on to the treble now. But the upper mid-range and the lower treble kind of mix in to each other, but there's another peak at about 5 kilohertz. While there is not any sibilance, these aren't a sibilant earphone at all, but certain things like the attack on percussion instruments like snare drums and hi-hats sometimes can be very sharp, and that can cause some fatigue, definitely. It also kind of affects the coherency of the sound a little bit, because you get these sort of hi-hats and snare attacks, things like that, which are just kind of jump out of the music a little bit too much, and it doesn't help the coherency all that much. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just could be better, you know. There isn't much upper treble presence, it's all focused in the lower treble, so you get plenty of energy, plenty of detail, but there isn't it's not the most airiest or spacious sound. The spaciousness in the sound of these sort of comes from the combination of the lower treble and the upper mid-range, plus the leanness and speed of the bass. All right, let's do a couple of quick comparisons now. First of all, this is the Mangird MT4, and this is a gorgeous IEM, similar shell. It's got a wooden faceplate there, but you can see the similarities. They are quite similar in shape and size, but I do find the Legacy 4 to be a little more comfortable. You can see that the nozzles are fairly long, so they're kind of designed for a deep insertion type of wear, which may or may not work for your specific ears. But anyway, getting onto the sound now, and these both have similarities. They both are fairly linear, as in balanced, not the same as neutral, but the MT4 has a little better sub-bass extension, and overall throughout the sound it has more note density, a little more weight, and a little more warmth. I would say it sounds a little bit more natural. than the Legacy 4. It is not as detailed. You won't hear as many micro details, and it's not as resolving either. In the treble particularly, the treble is more laid back than the Legacy 4. So for me, if I were looking for a daily driver, I would probably choose the MT4 just because you can sort of kick back and relax with it. The Legacy 4 is a very demanding IEM on the listener. It sort of grabs your attention. It's one that will sort of, the first few moments when you hear the Legacy 4, you're kind of like, oh shit, wow, this is amazing. But over time, you'll come to realize that they do become fairly fatiguing. Well, at least for me, they do. But that depends on how you deal with sort of brightness and treble. But anyway, if if the Legacy 4 sounds a little too bright for you, the Mangird MT4 could be a good alternative. And now let's have a look at the FiiO FH3, and this is still one of my favorite IEMs. I love everything about it except for the cable, which is why I've changed out the cable here. This is the Shanling EL100, I believe. So the FH3 only has 3 drivers. It's got 1 dynamic and 2 balanced armature drivers. It is a warmer IEM. It has more body to the sound, a warmer sound, and a more upfront sound as well, whereas the Legacy 4 is a bit more spacious and a bit laid back in its presentation. In terms of sub bass, these are very different indeed. Like the FH3, one of the things I really love about this earphone is its killer sub bass, and I mean killer sub bass. It's got extension for days, it's got authority and power, and it rumbles, and it's just so good. The Legacy 4, on the other hand, has more bass control. It is a faster bass, it's a lighter bass, but it just doesn't have that same kind of oomph that the FH3 has. In the mid-range, again, the Legacy 3 is going to be more resolving. You'll hear more nuances, and vocals are clearer, more articulate on the Legacy 4. Not that the FH3 is bad, but it's got that bigger, hefty bass to contend with, so you do get a little bit of bass bleed, but that's what makes it kind of so musical and so engaging. In terms of treble, the FH3 has much better upper treble extension than the Legacy 4. The Legacy 4 is all concentrated down in the lower treble. The FH3 takes a little dip in the lower treble, but then it sort of extends way out, and the upper treble is kind of linear until it falls off. But overall, FH3, warmer, bassier, a little bit more musical in my opinion, whereas the Legacy 4 is a real detail monster, very vocal and mid-range focused, although it does have a nice bass on it too. But percussion instruments, particularly snares and hi-hats, are quite forward, and very, very high registers of piano notes and flutes, and maybe some brass instruments as well. Can be a little bit glaring, a little bit bright on the Legacy 4 here. So to sum it up, this isn't a game changer. When I first listened to the Legacy 4, I was legit thinking, holy shit, this is a game changer. But over time, as I listened to more music and different types of music, I quickly realized that it does have a brightness, it does have a sharpness, and that's not going to work for everybody. However, if you are not particularly sensitive to treble, it shouldn't be a problem for you. And if you are one of those people who craves maximum detail and loves hearing all those little micro details, then this would be a great choice for you. Before we move on to the sound aspects, I will quickly talk about the tuning switches here. I'll be blunt, the left switch does sweet fuck all. It really does not change the sound whatsoever. But the right switch, if you turn the right switch on or up, it brings the mid-range forward, so you get a little bit more body in the mid-range. It makes the overall sound signature flatter or more linear and less V-shaped, and that works for some types of music or some songs, and it doesn't work as well on others, but which one you like will come down to your personal preference. But regardless of which position the switches are in, you're still getting the core sound signature. Doesn't change all that much. So that wraps it up for this video, guys. If you like this video, show your love and give me a like, Parfam audiophile style. And if you're new to the channel and you want to see more reviews like this in the future, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget there is a link to the full written review in the description, along with links to the social media channels. Join the Discord channel and come and have a chat with us there. And until next time, I'll see you later.